So, what's your favorite book?
I believe my favorite book is Eleanor Park. It's an English book.
What is the book about?
The book's mostly about two people, Eleanor and Park, pretty self-explanatory. But it's two pretty young people, they're in high school, about 16, and it's about them falling in love, so really young people falling in love. Even John Green said it reminds you about young people when you were young and in love.
The Happy Death from Albert Camus. It is about, there's a main character, a man who actually feels no remorse or anything. He's just in the world and everything is absurd to him, and he's doing what he is doing and it doesn't matter, nothing matters to him.
So is there something that you've learned from the book or maybe inspired you to do in your daily life?
Well, one thing that irritates me about the book is that they're not really honest always. So I try to be as honest and just say what I'm thinking, unlike them.
It made me think about how I care about things that actually have different sides of the story, that everything is relative. I guess that's it.
So would you recommend the book to others?
Definitely, if you want an easy to read book that's English, it's also in Dutch, but I like it in English. And just something to relax by, get a little bit sentimental.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
My favorite book at the moment is this one. This is the Dutch translation. It is originally called Geschichte eines Deutschen, die Erinnerungen 1914-1933. It's written by German author Sebastian Haffner. It's his first book, and it kind of describes his life as growing up in Germany, in Berlin, from the start of the First World War all the way up to the end of the Third Reich.
My favorite book is Master And Margarita by Mikhail Bulgakov. It takes place in 1930s Soviet Moscow, and the devil comes to visit, and he wreaks havoc, he brings an entourage, and bad things go down.
It shows quite how the average German had a relationship with the political situation in Germany as it was in the early years of the last century, and the personal relationship with Hitler's government in the early 30s from the author. And I find that personally very, very intriguing because I study history. I'm quite interested in this period of time in German history. And this just shows it on a more personal level.
Maybe how well history can repeat itself if we're not careful. I think it teaches a really good lesson, especially as far as religion goes.
So you would recommend the book as well?
Oh, I highly recommend it, yeah. Highly recommend it.
Well, what it has taught me basically is quite that the average German can have a vastly different opinion on the political situation in Germany at this time. So the author shows how he was influenced by monarchist propaganda during the First World War, but then also proceeds how he grew as a person into not agreeing with Hitler's Third Reich. And it quite shows how one person can develop and also can find out how to ignore propaganda and stand up against something they don't agree with.
It's The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. So basically he says that what you tell yourself is basically the truth. So if you say, I am smart, you just have to believe in it. So you can't say that I am stupid, for example, because you start believing in that, and that basically ruins your whole thinking of yourself. So basically just and I'm trying to pursue that every day and just tell myself that I am capable of something and just believe it.
I would definitely recommend this book for anyone interested in history, particularly German history around this age in the 1940-1933, as it says on the cover. And it just shows that general history, but on a much more personal level. It's written quite nicely for the first book of this author. You can just, I finished it in 2 afternoons actually, so.
My favorite book is Saturday by Ian McEwan. Well, it's about a doctor living in London, and it plays out over 24 hours, and basically he's just living this enclosed life, just full of like the rich, poor, swash-see life. And then all kinds of weird stuff happen within those 24 hours, and he gets confronted with himself actually. So yeah, I
This
like
is
that.
something that you've learned or maybe inspired you to do in your daily life.
Well, the doctor actually had a son, and the son was actually like a musician, and he said that the big world, basically, that's just awful, all these crises, and but the small world, that was his good life, that made him happy. And yeah, it's kind of like the philosopher, one of the philosophers said, like, il faut garder le jardin. So like, just do your own talents and keep it small, and then you'll be happy.
Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. It is about a scientist who figured out a way to resurrect parts of a human, I guess. And then when he succeeds, he decides that he no longer is happy with his creation, so he runs away from it, leaving the creature to fend for himself. And it's the classic tale of nature versus nurture. He creates a monster, and in so doing, you could argue that he is the monster himself.
My favorite book is Let op mijn woorden from Giet op de Beek. It's a Flemish writer. Well, there's not like a very big plot. It's mainly just about one character. It's about a young woman, and God, how do I say this without spoiling it too much? I think you basically just see her try and go through life and fall in love for the first time and experience her own ways of living and how she kind of self-manipulates in a way as well.
That did make me think about like what's, like how important is nature and how important is nurture when it comes to, education or raising children, or just in general, like how much is predetermined in, our genes, and how much is based on what we experience and what we learn. And I think that, is more of a philosophical question than it is, then it really changed like the way I do things. It's more about my thought process has changed. Yes.
Would you recommend the book to others?
Yes, I would. Yeah, it's a classic tale, and I think if you're into literature, you should have read it.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
I'm not sure if I've taken anything from it, but I definitely, when I read it, I was very much, I really needed to finish it. I read it while walking down the stairs and fell down the stairs. So it definitely took me someplace else, and I kind of really liked to also feel recognized from the like in the book and in the character. So it was more that it was kind of like a reflection of characteristics that I see in myself as well. And that maybe then I learned something about myself through that, but not really anything that I changed about my day-to-day life.
Right. So would you recommend the book as well?
Yeah, I think it's really beautiful.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.